Day one of free agency in the books. What did the Leafs do and what's left to be done? We'll answer all that and more on today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
Your Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. What's happening, pal? How are we feeling on a Wednesday?
Feeling good. So, my happy Canada Day. I know it's day after, but I don't even know if I said it. I didn't know if I said it for yesterday's show, but man, doing pretty good. It was a very long day yesterday.
What was your day like? Were you working? Were you on the free agent frenzy?
Free agent frenzy. Everything needed to be done, written, every little deal.
Yeah. I mean, it was a bit of a slower pace, I would say, when it comes to free agent frenzy, at least in terms of like the bigger deals, right? Like you look at yesterday, there wasn't a whole lot of like big signings. And I think mainly is because pretty well everybody kept their players. Like teams just decide to keep their players when all said and done, except, Mitch Marner, of course, that big fish got let go and he ended up in Vegas. We'll talk about his media availability and his thank you notes to Leafs Nation in a little bit. But I thought overall, you look at free agency, bit of a dud this year compared to others. And even like the big fish, Nikolai Ehlers, apparently he is going to make his decision today on where he's going, deliberating between a couple of teams, but the big fish didn't even go. So that's just, it was kind of a lackluster free agent frenzy, I would say.
Yeah, like it was just like small deal after small deal after small deal. I mean, look, there are guys who got money that shouldn't have gotten money, and that to me is like teams are probably like, we got money to spend.
Yeah,
what are we spending it on?
What's the deal you're talking about? There's two, and I think we probably have the exact same two, but there were two contracts where I went, they gave him how much money for how many years? There were two specific contracts that did that for me. I'm curious if we got the same ones.
Tanner Jeannot was one.
Yep.
And Cody Ceci was another.
Exactly. Like,
I'm less surprised about Cody Ceci because of who signed it. Because it's not the first time he signed Cody Ceci to that type of deal.
That's true, actually. That is true. Yeah, that makes sense. Our boy,
it doesn't make sense, but it makes sense of this.
Right. Kenny Holland loves him some Ceci. I mean, hey, Ceci, as a third pair guy, like he's not awful, but like $4.5 million for your third pair defenseman, I'm not quite sure what you're going to get there with term. It was funny because they announced the Ceci and Brian Dumoulin deals like the exact same time, both to LA, and I'm like, I pay more money for Dumoulin than Ceci. Like, what are we doing here? How did Ceci get more money than Dumoulin? But the Tanner Jeannot deal was definitely one that was a massive head scratcher. It was at 4 years, $3.2 million per. Like the guy had 14 points last year. Like he hasn't eclipsed 16 points or 17 points in the last 3 seasons. In what world is he worth more than $3 million? I don't know, man. Like he is a perfect Boston Bruin. Like he's gonna go and impose his will and punch people in the face. Sure, I suppose, but I don't think they're gonna get their bang for their buck on that contract.
How does Tanner Jeannot get 5 years at 3.4? And you look at what Andrew Mangiapane signed at. He signs what 2 years? He was what 2 years 3.6?
3.6, yeah, I think it was. Which I kind of wish Toronto was able to get in on that. Like,
I literally messaged you right as soon as I saw it. I went with the
Italian swear word that we know.
I can't say the word I said to you, but
starts with a C. Starts with a C. It's an Italian swear word that starts with a C. All of our homies out in the bridge know exactly what we're talking about here. Our paisans out there, but like that was a deal. So he ends up signing. Like it was a late night deal, but he signs with Edmonton. Yeah, $3.6 million, 2-year deal. And it's like, man, that was our number one target that we both wanted the Maple Leafs to go after. And it seemed like after day one, that was still available. It felt like maybe he could be like that Tyler Bertuzzi day 2 of free agency signing, where it's like quiet on day 1. And then day 2, they come over the top with a couple of deals. But no, Mangiapane ends up going to Edmonton on a pretty fair contract, I would say, for both parties. And the Leafs now have to kind of look elsewhere. And they did make a few signings, I guess. Like, they did make a couple deals, none of which of any note, I would say. They did make 4 signings, though, on day 1 of free agency, in case you didn't know. Michael Pezzetta, probably the most known player. He signed a 2-year deal worth $812,000 AAV. Benoit Olivier Groulx signed a 2-year deal, the exact same deal as Pezzetta, and they re-signed Dakota Mermis to that exact same deal as well. So getting 2 years for these players, and they signed Travis Boyd, who comes back to Toronto after a few years just kind of traveling around the league, AHL, NHL, going between the two. He signed a 1-year deal at $775,000. None of those players, though, Dave, I'm expecting to really be staples in the Maple Leafs lineup.
No, and the Marlies literally got gutted. Like, if you look at guys who's like, the Marlies have like nobody coming back. So they need AHL bodies as well. So that's literally like those four signings you saw. Maybe Pezzetta, maybe he'll be a guy that sticks around potentially, but otherwise, like, the Marlies have no one.
No. Yeah. So, Travis Boyd has been a very good AHLer. Whatever Groulx will go in there. We'll see Pezzetta, just more depth. That's what he is. He's a good forechecker. Don't get me wrong. He's got good speed. But he's not really going to wow you. Like, this is someone who was healthy scratch quite a bit in Montreal's lineup, and you would hope that the Leafs can put together a better, deeper lineup than Montreal's and make it harder for him to compete for a spot on this roster. So we'll see what happens with him, but certainly not anything too crazy was done by the Maple Leafs on day 1. Is there more to be done, though? Let's come back and let's get into what's next for the Maple Leafs. Who's left on the board that could possibly be a Toronto Maple Leaf, or could they possibly look into getting, or is the trade market the way to continue to add to this group? We'll get into all that and more next on the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
Today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. A big thing for me is having everything in one place, having it all on one app. My investments, it makes it a lot easier. I don't have to have all these different apps. I can check everything, and I can also have everything in specific categories to know where my money is going, what I'm spending more on, and maybe what I shouldn't be spending as much on. So make sure you go and take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKDOWNNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKDOWNNHL for half off your first year.
The Locked On Leafs podcast continues. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you as we are each and every weekday, Monday through Friday, all week long. We'll be here all week, next couple weeks, 5 shows weekly, and then we'll drop down to 3 shows a week throughout the rest of the summer. But we're not taking a break. We're not going on holidays for the summer like a lot of other people. We're back, and we're going to continue giving you the most up-to-date content, not only with the Leafs, but all around the NHL as we possibly can all off season. So make sure you subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast for that. Again, free and available wherever you get your podcasts, and also up on YouTube. Elsewhere, I guess, yes, lots going on with the Leafs and around the NHL. did you happen to see, Dave, the news this morning? And based on the shirt you're wearing, that might indicate that you did hear the NHLers officially heading to the Olympics in 2026.
Yeah, hopefully they give me another chance to get a Team Canada Four Nations jersey. I hope they just bring those ones back because they were fire. I've been searching for one ever since the tournament was over, and I picked this up Monday because I'm like, I wanted something to wear on Canada Day, and the Canada stuff from Four Nations was just so good. So yeah, it's great though because the Olympics we miss having the best on best at the Olympics. I've watched the last two Olympics with the roster that Canada has had to put out. Tough. It's tough because it's just the best Canadians play in the NHL. Like you look at the ones that are playing in Europe, they're okay, but they're professionals, but they're not to the caliber. When you're talking about best on best, that's hasn't been it the last 2 years.
No, I mean, yeah, there's a difference between what was it like a couple of years ago, like Mason Raymond was on that team, like a Daniel Winnick was on that team, or you get some college players who got to go over and play back in 2020. But the best of the best will be out there. We saw the Four Nations face off, what a big best on best tournament can do. And boy, was it entertaining. And that was just with bragging rights on the line. Now you got Olympic gold on the line, and you're playing for your country in the Olympic Games. That's going to be massive, and I can't wait to get down to it. And it's funny though, like I'm not sure I see a Canadian Olympian on the team anymore. Like now that Mitch Marner is gone, like who I don't know if there's really anyone from a Canadian perspective that will be able to work their way into the mix for the Canadian team. So Canadian national team. So like we might not be able to root on any Canucks here.
Only one dark horse, and that's John Tavares. Maybe he said he's still going to push for it.
I know, but like if he didn't do it last year, he had 38 goals. He was playing phenomenally. If that wasn't enough to get on his radar, I don't know.
I think he was on the radar. I just think that they went with a different mix,
different group.
Yeah, I think there was
bigger ice surface, so like maybe they go.
It's not actually. It's NHL ice.
Oh, really? Even though it's in Milan, they're still going to go.
It's in Milan. The rink is NHL ice.
Okay, all right. So maybe, possibly, he could be in the mix, but won't be Marner. Marner's off to Sin City. He is in Vegas. He signed his 8-year, $12 million extension as part of the sign and trade with Nicolas Waugh coming back the other way. And we got to hear from Mitch Marner yesterday and see all the videos, the red carpet welcome that Marner got in Vegas yesterday. What did you make of the whole charade? The video of him putting on his jersey, wearing number 93 out in Vegas, by the way, not his number 16. So a real fresh start for him. And also anything stick out to you in his press conference?
I mean, it was so obvious that he wanted to go there a lot. Like, this wasn't a few weeks ago he decided he wanted to go to Vegas. This was a lot. Like, and I said it when we were talking about the tampering stuff. I think the Leafs knew that Vegas was on his radar well before, right? And there was a reason why they went to Vegas for that trade. And he even said
last summer, there's a reason why they went to Vegas. Like,
yeah,
they wouldn't have went to Vegas with a Mitch Marner offer unless they knew he'd be willing to go.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's ultimately it. And again, we heard of the deal that fell through, the three-way trade that would have brought Rantanen to Toronto and would have sent Marner to Vegas. And then who knows what ends up in Carolina. They obviously couldn't figure out that part of the deal. Yeah. But man, like what could have been? What could have been if Marner would have waived that no trade clause? And bad timing, I guess. Like I understand now, like looking back on it, like his wife was pregnant, going to be giving birth in a couple of months. Like probably wouldn't want to uproot his family and be away from his family for all that. So that makes a little bit more sense as to why he was so kind of stubborn on not being moved at the deadline. But Yeah, it is unfortunate that they were unable to get much out of it, and it seemed like he was out the door anyway. All season long, he had one foot out the door, and then second the playoffs ended, it was pretty much we're shutting down negotiations. I'm out of here. And I don't know if I believe him or if it was just lip service, but saying how it was hard, he never envisioned himself leaving Toronto. It sounds like he had thought about leaving Toronto for the last year. So
he said almost like kind of 2 years, right? Where he kind of heard the rumors,
a couple years,
things kind of were going south. I'm like, Mitch, why was that? Why were things kind of not going right? I don't think the Leafs were actively looking to move him because everything was going rosy.
Yeah,
like that part with
Go ahead.
It just felt like, and look, he even said he was like, Four Nations, speaking with I think he'd say he was speaking with Stone, like and Theodore.
Yeah,
we weren't talking about me coming to Vegas. Like he was very particular on things he was saying. Come on, we know there was a recruitment job going on there too.
Yeah, there definitely was. And even, he talked to Pacioretty and Ryan Reeves about the organization, about the community living there. And they gave him the kind of seal of approval. It's a good spot to be. And it is. A lot of people have actually enjoyed living in the Vegas area. It's not like these guys are living in the hotel district on the Strip or anything like that. So, best of luck. Best of luck is all I have to say about Marner. Again, this is stuff that we can dive into throughout the summer. If whether or not we think that what his legacy will be here in Toronto. If we think he's better off over there, will he finally unlock that inner demon that has not allowed him to find success in the playoffs? Will he be able to do that? Did seem less stressed yesterday. Seemed like a happy-go-lucky kid when he was out there speaking. So I don't know. Maybe it was the bright lights of Toronto that just for whatever reason put him into a little shell at times. And now that he's elsewhere, away from that type of off-ice pressure, perhaps he can get back to being himself and get back to being a superstar player.
Yeah, and couldn't help but notice who was front row there, Mr. Paul Marner.
Yep. Yeah, he was. He took that flight to Vegas real quick, didn't he?
Oh, yeah. Maybe that flight to Vegas was planned around the draft, maybe?
Yeah, possibly. Could have been.
Those jerseys also got up pretty quick there at the Vegas apparel store.
Didn't they? Yeah, they pressed a lot of 93s real quick. Real quick. We all knew that was happening, honestly. Yeah. No one should be too surprised. Anything else you want to mention about Marner? Anything else that stuck out to you?
No, I appreciate he put out that statement, yeah. But otherwise I think it's time to just
move on. Yeah, no,
it's going to take time, but I think it's time.
I think it's time also. And move on we shall. Let's take another break. We'll come back and see how can the Leafs move on? How can they continue to fill the void left by Mitch Marner? Who's left on the free agent market? And could the trade market be the way to do it? We'll chat about that and more next on the Locked On Leafs podcast. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you as we are each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Also up on YouTube. Hit subscribe. Would be greatly appreciated. So Dave, day one of free agency, very lackluster around the league, but especially in Toronto. Like we said, the big name signing from day one was Michael Pezzetta. And that's a player who had a whopping 0 points in 25 games last year for Montreal. Now, granted, he's not a point producer. He's a fourth line enforcer more than anything, but at least he can skate pretty well in forecheck. So if he does get put into a situation where he's got to play with Toronto, at least he can skate, unlike, some of the other enforcers, Ryan Reeves, in the lineup. So at least he got someone who can kind of skate and do some other things out there. But that was it. No other big names. Like we said, Benoit Olivier grew, Dakota Mermis re-signed, then they brought in Travis Boyd. all of those expected to really be Marley's deals more than anything. It's funny you mentioned that the Leafs depth got pillaged in terms of their UFAs and Marley's guys. And you see like where they went to, I thought was kind of funny. Pontus Holmberg goes to Tampa. Nick Ebertzazy goes to Tampa. And then you see who was it? Alex Steves goes to Boston. It's like, what's going on here? Why they got to go to all these rivalry teams? I find it hilarious that Pontus Holmberg got a 2-year deal in Tampa, 1.5 million AAV, maybe 1.55 AAV to go to Tampa. I mean, I just is he going to go to Tampa and put up like a 40-point season under John Cooper and the Tampa Bay Lightning? Is that really about to happen to us here, Dave?
It would be hilarious. It'd be typical. Kind of be typical, but I mean, we've seen these sort of deals. Like a lot of former Leafs kind of go off to these places, and I don't know. Like, am I worried about losing a Pontus Holmberg? Nah, not really. Like, he was put in a prominent position in Toronto. He literally top 6 Holmberg, right? Top 6 Pontus. It's not like this is a guy who is severely underrated and underutilized in Toronto. And now going to get an opportunity in Tampa. He had an opportunity here, but he's like, well, since I played top 6 for you, I want 1.55 per year. And it's like, you know what? Go earn that in Tampa, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not worried about the Leafs going up. Like, if anything, I'm not worried about the Leafs going up against Pontus Holmberg in Tampa.
No, no. It's just funny how it's like, man.
Oh yeah,
the Leafs didn't think Pontus Holmberg could be of use to them, but John Cooper said, "Yeah, I'll put that guy on my team. I could find a role for him, and we'll see how it works out." But I mean, that was outside of Mitch Marner. I guess that was kind of the bigger free agent departure that we've seen sign so far. There are not many names left on the free agent board. I mean, the free agent board kind of got pillaged, the days leading up to it, and with a bunch of people just re-signing and going back to their teams. But there are still some players who are out there and available that the Maple Leafs could inquire on and potentially, make some improvements to their roster. So I'm just going to throw out some names here, Dave, and basically go down the list, and you let me know if you think the Leafs should inquire or let it be. Nick Ehlers.
I'd inquire. If you're looking for someone to improve your top 6, I'd inquire.
I certainly would. It doesn't sound like he wants to go to a place that garners a lot of media attention. It sounds like he's going to want to go somewhere and just play hockey. Like, he
enjoy Utah.
Yeah, like, honestly, maybe San Jose, potentially. San Jose needs to get to the cap floor. They give that guy like $10 million.
So does Carolina.
Yeah, like those two they could just give them like 10 million, and it's not even going to bother them. Like, that's how they get to the floor. So I could see that one of those two spots kind of being it. Apparently, he's going to make his decision at some point today. Pius Suter. Would you be interested in a Pius Suter, and at what cost if you are?
It's like a buyer beware for me on Pius Suter. I know he had a really good year last year.
Yeah, 25 goals.
Right, 25 goals. He's 29 years old, so he's kind of in that good prime spot. But it's like, okay, he's a third line. Like, he's third line, can move up and play second line in a pinch. I don't know. He's going to want to command, I think, more than what I think the Leafs would be able to afford for someone like him. So I would say, unless the deal makes sense, I'd pass.
And we get this is how porous the board is at this point for what's available. The next best forward after Ehlers and Suter is Jack Roslovic, who had a decent season, I guess, like a breakout year, if you will, like 22 goals. But like,
he barely was in the playoff roster. Like, I think he was like in and out in the playoffs too. Like, Carolina, like he scored 22 goals, but Carolina's like, yeah, no, we don't need you back.
Yeah, and then the playoffs kind of lost his role a little bit there. So it's like, again, someone I don't really care for Roslovic. Like, I think that especially if he wants a multi-year deal, like, there's projections that he wants like 3-year, $4 million deal. Like I'll pass at that number. Absolutely pass at that number.
Yeah.
Anthony Beauvillier is the fourth best forward available on the open market. Anthony Beauvillier, it feels like there's been a lot of chatter for years about Beauvillier possibly ending up in Toronto. It's never actually happened. He did score 15 goals last year. Could he possibly, he's a bit of a bigger player. He's got some size to him. Could Beauvillier potentially be a depth add here for the Maple Leafs?
I'd say it's unlikely. I remember when he got to Washington, he didn't do bad in Washington. I will say in the playoffs, limited role, did okay. But to me, it's like he's not going to play in your top six. I don't know. I don't think for what he wants, it just doesn't make sense for the Leafs.
I'm with you, man. Like I think this is the point that I'm kind of trying to get at here is there's not a whole lot out here. Like there just isn't anything out here in free agency anymore. Like if they don't lock in Nikolai Ehlers, I guess would be the one player who can actually be a significant addition. There's not anything out there that's really going to improve your team that much. Like you got a pretty good roster. Like Roslovic isn't going to be that much better than like a Max Domi. Like it's just
that's what it comes down to. Like the Leafs are trying to subtract like the Yarncrocs, the Camps. Then why are you going to go out and bring in guys like this? It just these guys they're not upgrades on those, right? So to me, it's just like I'd rather just keep Yarncroc if that's what you're going to do.
Yeah,
you're going to give those because Yarncroc's one more year. Just play out Yarncroc in the final year of that deal. Now Camp, he can go. I think you're pretty much okay if you let Camp go because you can find guys who are better than Camp.
Yeah, I'm starting to soften on the. I mean, I wouldn't be upset if they trade away Camp, but I don't think it would be horrendous if they brought him back. I think a little bit later on, maybe next week, we can kind of talk about that or later on in the week. Depth is always a good thing, especially guys who can play down the middle of the ice. But again, we can talk about that later. Kind of depends on what else they do throughout the summer, I guess, on that one. All right, really quickly, the forward group, there's not much there. Defensively, would you have any interest in a Dmitry Orlov or a Brent Burns who's still out there? Possibly, like, do either of those two kind of tickle your fancy at all?
Maybe I would consider maybe taking a fly on Burns.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's just like other than that.
How would that look? Like you'd obviously have it'd be OEL and Brent Burns on a pairing. You like that as a third pair? That's a pretty old.
It's old, but OEL's not. It's not like he doesn't have legs, right? He's a puck mover, right? That's where I think I'd be.
So then you got two puck movers back there,
You can maybe move it around a bit too if you really need to, but yeah, it's just the age thing for me. Like if Brent Burns was like what 8 years younger, I guess.
Yeah, he'd be $8 million because that's what he cost 8 years ago. So
I know, but like if he was a bit younger, I would probably say that's a bit more easier to swallow. But yeah, to me, it's just you can tell the Leafs are not blowing out their budget right now because next year I think there's opportunities to do more,
which I do think is a worthwhile consideration for the Leafs. Don't just go and blow money stupidly on players because you have the space. Keep the space. Utilize that space, and maybe you can add someone through the trade market, which you'll need cap space for. If it's not through the summer, next year at trade deadline, and you could accrue more cap space throughout the season if you have it, and then you'll have tons of money to spend at the trade deadline if you want, or you can weaponize that cap space and broker some deals and acquire some draft picks to do that. This team doesn't have many draft picks, so those are the types of things that you could do if you kept that money. So if there's no one worth spending it on free agency, if you can find a good trade to make, great, but don't just spend money stupidly because you have it, right?
Exactly.
Keep it. Keep it. You're okay. You don't have to always be up against the cap if you're the Maple Leafs. But there are some trade options out there as well that they could go down that road and fill in that money. Jordan Kyrou seems to be in the trade market a lot, although I'm not sure he wants to have a reunion with Craig Berube, but he's one of the top players on the trade bait board. Marco Rossi, interesting player, a bit smaller, but he could fill in at that 2C role. Do they have interest in Rasmus Anderson if they want to improve the defense, right? Is Calgary, are they willing to finally make deals with Brad Treliving 2 years later? They finally willing to make these trades. We'll see. Brian Rust out in Pittsburgh. Is Dubas willing to deal with the Toronto Maple Leafs? Like, there are some names on the trade market that I think are interesting. But we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening there.
Yeah, I just, to me, stay away from the free agent market. Yeah. If you need to make a move, go make a trade a few bodies away if you have to. Otherwise, like, we're not talking, like, they don't need to go out and add a superstar, right? They're not going out and making now like a big blockbuster trade. But if there's an opportunity to add a guy who can play on your wing on the top six, go out and do it. Otherwise, like, just I think you're in a better position to not force a deal. Let the deal kind of come to you a little bit.
Yeah. So we'll see what the Maple Leafs end up doing. Pretty quiet day one. Day two so far, we're halfway through day two as of the recording of this podcast. It's nearly 1 o'clock Eastern, and no follow-up deals on July 2nd, but it's still a long day, and it's going to be a long summer. So buckle up. There still is lots to be done, that's for sure. This is not going to be the team that goes into next season. I guarantee you there'll be at least one more decent addition of some kind, whether it's via trade or free agency. I think we'll see one more top 9 addition made to this club, maybe even a top 4 defensive addition made to this club. So, all right, Dave, that'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti, and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. You can find that on Instagram at Locked On Leafs as well. We'll be back with another episode for you guys tomorrow. But until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.